Hey, it's Don Skaggs again with Empowered Inventing, where we help you take your ideas and innovations and turn them into real things like products and businesses. So, I was reminded recently about actually it was written on a T-shirt. I want to say by maybe a T-shirt that was owned by some members of a fire department. But it was actually a military mantra, particularly the Marine Corps, and it's basically 3 words. It says, improvise, adapt, overcome. And I was reminded of that recently, and my father-in-law is actually a former Marine, and actually I got to ask him about this a little bit, and he said, oh yeah, that's the unofficial mantra of the Marine Corps. But digging into why that is the unofficial mantra of the Marine Corps is the fact that the Marine Corps was used to receiving Army hand-me-downs, and traditionally the troops were poorly equipped. Now, in spite of this perceived disadvantage, the Marine Corps has been successful mostly because of their creativity of its people and their success-based attitude, which I just really astounded me. So I believe this amazing capacity of creative thinking stems from the Marines' utter drive and dedication towards accomplishing their mission, even when faced with what appear to be impossible odds. So, in seeing this T-shirt, I was reminded also of this movie, and I've been mentioning some movies lately, and this is another, actually it's a really great movie. It's a military movie. It's called Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood. I think it's from like the 80s, so some of you might not have heard of it before. I'm sure it's like on Netflix or Hulu or somewhere streaming out there. So anyway, it was sort of made popular again by that movie, the Improvise, Adapt, Overcome. And if you've not seen that movie, it's actually a pretty good movie. So it's another one I recommend. I'm not doing movie reviews on here, but anyway, if you want a good movie that has actually, I'll recommend any movie that has a really good message for inventors and entrepreneurs, and I guess that's true because we do the Inventor Entrepreneur Night at the movies quite a bit with those. So I don't know if this one quite fits that, but it's got some good pieces to it. So anyway, this is this mantra, like the Marines, inventors and entrepreneurs have a mission. So you're wondering, what does this have to do with inventors and entrepreneurs? Well, actually, quite a bit, quite a bit. And that's what really struck me about this whole saying, this motto. We always have a mission, like the Marines, and it's a battle plan that hits the ground on an ever-changing landscape, which is real important because, again, like I've said before, a good military analogy to this is no battle plan ever survives contact with the enemy, because stuff begins to change by the moment your boots hit the ground. So, for instance, if you say this year you've watched a major change in your market's landscape, and we've seen that. Maybe the customers that bought stuff from you before are no longer wanting to buy it for the same reasons. Maybe they're just not wanting to buy your product at all anymore. Maybe they've moved on to something else. Maybe something has changed in what their needs are. So, as I've said on a lot of other videos and other places, you don't want, at this point when things start to change, don't stick your head in the sand. We kind of want to do that. We kind of want to stick our head in the sand and say, no, this isn't happening. I don't want to believe it. I don't want to, bad stuff's happening. I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm not even going to listen to it. And that can be one of the worst things you do. That can just decimate a small business, or especially a startup. And certainly someone with an invention or a product that they're trying to launch. So you have to keep your ear close to the ground for that landscape, because that landscape's going to change. The stuff's going to change with that. But you have to you have to improvise, adapt, and overcome. So many of us, a lot of it, we're forced to do more with less, again, like the Marines. And the Marines have always done more with less. They've historically had to do without. And they're the smallest branch of the service, but they even share a smaller share of the DoD budget. But this has forced them to actually achieve more with less, which is amazing. And this is so strongly infused into their being that they just expect it to be that way. They expect to be shortchanged, if you will, and still come out on top. They develop this attitude of never letting adversity get in their way. And I think this is an important lesson, again, for inventors and entrepreneurs, because you know, a lot of your the fronts of a lot of your landscape, they're going to change. They're going to change constantly, and it might be your market, it might be where you're buying things, it might be your innovation. There are so many things that just will change all around you. It might be your resources. Maybe you're short on resources and you have to find another way to get your prototype developed. Maybe you're at that point where you have to have something made. Maybe you have to make it differently than you thought you were going to before. Maybe you have to maybe you can't afford that next more expensive step, so you figure out creatively another way to take that next step along your idea process. So, you know, it doesn't matter if you're filing intellectual property. Maybe you don't want to spend, maybe you don't have the $10,000 to spend by taking the traditional route with an attorney. And again, we teach a lot of that, of how to have a really good lean patenting strategy for that sort of thing, because we work with a lot of inventors. I work with a lot of inventors, and I do not like them to spend tons of money up front on things that they should not be spending because they don't know whether they're going to get an ROI yet. So you have to be able to adapt, and sometimes it's adapting on the fly. Now, here's the thing that really strikes me about this, because when things look impossible, the Marines, they always get more creative. And this is a mantra we really have to embrace as inventors and entrepreneurs, because you know, we have creativity in our blood. We wouldn't be where we are if we weren't creative to start with, if we didn't have that spark of creativity. And so when adversity comes, you have a shortage of materials, you have a shortage of time, you have a shortage of resources. What do you do? What do you do when you get stuck in the process? Do you just put your head in the sand? Do you give up? You say, okay, game over? No. What you really have to do you come to a standstill? No. You try to get more information and you attempt to come up with a viable solution. You take that same creativity. This is where I see so many inventors and entrepreneurs just get stymied. They have all of this, just this massive amount, this muscle of creativity at the beginning of the idea process and development process. And then they get into the business parts of it, and they get into the entrepreneurial part of it, and they get stymied. It's like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. But they've left all their creativity over here in the beginning. Take that creativity you use, borrow from that, and use it to overcome these other things, to improvise, adapt, and eventually overcome. So when you're faced with a challenging situation that just seems to be just too big to tackle, just remember that you have a weapon at your disposal that many around you, and a lot of your big competitors especially, do not have, and that is your creativity. So again, I'm Don Skaggs, empoweredinventing.com. If you want to learn more, watch us on YouTube. Be sure and subscribe, click the notification bell, and I will look to see you at the next meeting, workshop, class, or on the next video.